Okay, hi guys. So my chapter was chapter 2, Understanding Oral Language for Literacy and the Special Case of Academic Language. This is from our book, Cultivating Knowledge, Building Language. So let's get started. So for this chapter, before I begin the slides, some of the things we've already practiced in other classes. So it was really hard for me to make this PowerPoint to make it some like beneficial for you guys. So I really tried my best to make it fun because you guys will see that some of the things that were in this book we like practice really hard with Yusuf and Kari's class. But if in case you didn't know, well, hopefully I can help you understand like what those classes were about. So for the beginning question, I want you guys to take a minute and look at this question. Have you ever read something and by the end of it you have no idea what you have read? You even try reading out loud to see if you will understand it better, but you don't? This happens to me a lot. And I've heard it a lot from some of my friends too from class, where it's just the big words, especially in like the college articles. I can read it and maybe I can say it, but um if you ask me like, oh Marixa, what was the reading about? I'll be like, kind of have to read it again, write down the vocabulary words, Google it, put everything together. So it really does take me a little bit longer than I wish it would. So that's my connection of me being an English language learner for when I went to elementary school and whatnot. So this just means that you lack vitamin RCS. So reading comprehension skills. Like, no, it's not really a vitamin, but you know me, I have to do my corny jokes. And this is probably you guys like really just move on with the PowerPoint, Marixa. So for the next slide, word reading versus reading comprehension. So word reading is being able to read with accuracy and automaticity. I promise I practiced this word before starting the PowerPoint. I can't get it. Automaticity. So that's just another academic word, for example. And then putting the letters and sounds together to read words. So this is obviously something we know, like the test that we kind of practice. I think it was Kari's class, like how fast can they read and can they read fluently? So that's word reading. But this book really focuses on reading comprehension, like can they read fluently and then at the end tell you what they read or summarize it for you, or do they understand what the reading is trying to tell them? So oral and written understanding of literacy. So can they summarize it to you? Can they tell you, or can they write it and answer questions? So like some examples that we know of that I kind of just said are worksheets to practice reading comprehension, which is kind of this one that I found like on Google. And it's just like short reading, and then they have to answer questions. So I can see teachers using this a lot just because it's like instant, like you read something and then tell me what you like, answer the questions to make sure that you understand what you read. And then writing summaries of what we read. So like reading something and then writing a summary. For us, it's reading a chapter and writing a forum post, trying to make connections, read as a class, and stop as necessary. So this one I put down because one thing that I did notice from teachers is that sometimes they prefer to read a book all together, especially if they know it's going to be a hard book to understand. And they read it like page per page or paragraph per paragraph, and they just stop after a certain paragraph or after a certain pages, and the teacher just stops and like asks the students questions like, do you guys know what's going on, or what happened, or what do you guys think this means? So she kind of like stops to clarify so that she knows that all her students are on the same page, and her students can understand like what they're reading. So one of the things is oral language. Now, in this PowerPoint, I do go page per page. Well, not so much page per page, but I did kind of try and make it like easier for you guys. So like oral language would be right on the other side of chapter 2, so you guys can follow along with me too. And you obviously have the option of pausing my PowerPoint and going over a little more if you feel like you need more information. So oral language is the system through which we use spoke words to express knowledge, ideas, and feelings. Why is it important for ELL students? It helps develop skills and knowledge that take part into listening and speaking. So what we learned in USEV was that in language acquisition class, sorry, I think my kids got here. Okay, helps develop knowledge. So these are the 5 components to oral language. So they kind of breaking it down. Oh, I think I was saying, sorry, I got interrupted. My kids got here, and I was like, no, you guys need to go to a room. Anyways, like we learned in Yusuf's class of language acquisition, we kind of learned that kids that are learning a different language, they always start with playground talk. They always start by talking, so oral language, and then oral language will help them when they start connecting sounds and letters together. It's kind of like it'll help them learn to read because they will already know what it means orally, so now they just have to see it in text. So we have phonological skills, syntax, morphological skills, pragmatics, semantics, or vocabulary. So these are the 5 key components, and these are the ones that we went over in Yusuf's class and whatnot. So I'm gonna go over them just a little bit more because that's what this chapter was about. So let's begin. So phonological skills in awareness of sounds such as syllables and rhymes. So I was able to get this cool picture here of phonological awareness task. So it kind of has everything that you do with phonological skills and stuff, but it placed them from like the less hardest to like difficult for students. So I saw that phoneme manipulation was one, and I kind of wanted to give you guys an idea of what that was. So that's what this picture is here. So it says change the k to m. So if it's a cat, it'll obviously turn to mat. Change the n to v. So net will turn to vet. And these are things that we learned in Yusuf's class, so students will not think like, oh, it's a B and I have to change it to T, to R. They're looking more for like sound. So students will be like, oh, this is the k and the sound, and the t and the another sound. So they're working with sounds and not so much with like kind of like letters or spelling. So again, think Kari's class for phonological awareness. So I found this picture. This is exactly how she drew it for us. It just has a little bit more drops. And these are all just like the assignments that were on the last page right here that kids could practice to build their phonological skills. In order to read, students need the ability to sound out letters. So again, we're talking about then learning the sounds of the language and in phonological awareness. So for EL learners, it is important for them to know the discrete sounds that make up language. So this is very important because students that are learning English, they already know a language, but it's not the same sounds as they are for English. I know, especially from Spanish to English, we don't have the same sounds. I mean, we even have like extra letters like the ñ and stuff. So yeah, think of everything that we learned in Kari's class. We also have syntax, an understanding of word order and grammatical rules. So we are going to be syntax superheroes, and I made 3 sentences or phrases that you guys have to fix, and this is us practicing like our syntax, practicing syntax. So this is one of the questions, so if you want to write the actual answer down like on a piece of paper or something, so that you can put it in a template, this would be a good time. So I'll give you like I think you guys like 5 seconds. I'm back. Okay, I think you guys got it. In flies the garden a honeybee, the on picture wall the hangs, the tree up ran the cat. So obviously they don't make sense. So us as syntax superheroes knows like this doesn't make sense. It's not in the right order, so then we fix it. Morphology, the smallest meaningful parts from which words are created, including roots, suffixes, and prefixes. So this is one of the, this is a cute example that we have. It says, I can't imagine what happened to Charlie Brown. He didn't really want to go to camp, did he? Well, then I think it's quite obvious where he went. Obvious, it may be obvious to you, but it's sure disobvious to me. Unobvious, exobvious, anti-obvious. You know, like all that goes in my head as when I'm reading articles and also creating creating like essays. Okay, so like I was saying, this is kind of what goes through my head. I'm like, which one is the right prefix, which one's the right suffix, and what's the root? I mean, it's not something that I struggle a lot with, but it does something that like I take to, like I have to pause and think about it. Let me put it back. Okay. And then pragmatics, an understanding of social rules of communication. For examples, like persuading someone is not going to be the way you persuade someone or you talk someone, like if you're trying to persuade them, is not going to be the same way that if you're trying to appease someone. Or the way that you talk to a family member is not going to be the same way that you talk to your employer, or the way you talk, engage into casual conversation, you know, like friends, is not going to be the same way, or you're not going to use the same language as public speech. It all is language, tone, vocabulary, you know, it's not going to be the same. And my funny picture over here, it's a zombie in a baseball field. So just to like just so you guys can see that zombies, they don't belong in the baseball field. They belong in college, you know, making PowerPoints and summaries. Semantics or vocabulary. So understanding the words and phrases. Semantics is the study of meaning in language. Like, what do you really mean? So the little cute picture in the back says, call me a cab. And she's like, okay, you're a cab. Get it? So she didn't really like know the meaning. Like, what did he really mean? He meant like, call him a taxi. And so she was like, you're a taxi. So that's what semantics and vocabulary is. Obviously, like building, like presenting new vocabulary to new words to students, so that they can use as they go up in grades. So for the next slide, it's a 17-minute video, but you guys are not going to, I mean, if you really want to, you can watch the 17-minute video. I say like 2-3 minutes as enough to get good information to answer these two questions that are also in the template where you guys fill in for my presentation. So it's another one that you can write down in your notebook. And first question, what 5 key components of oral language is he practicing with his students? So this is a male kindergarten teacher. How would the components you identified on the video benefit English language learners? So the 5 key components are the ones we just went over, right? Phonological skills, syntax and vocabulary. So he's going to be teaching his students, and you have to tell me, what 5 key components of oral language do you see? You don't have to find all of them. If you find all of them, then great, you can go ahead and put it. But you can put like 2 or 3. And then number 2, don't forget, how would the components you identified on the video benefit English language learners? So if you chose syntax, then if you chose syntax, then explain like how does learning syntax or practicing syntax with your students benefit them if they're learning English. Okay, so here's the video. Okay, guys, let's see. Okay, so I found the video on the screen. Okay, so this is the video.
Please stand
Oh, sorry guys.
up for me. Stand up, stand up, stand up. Very good. And sit down. And stand up, stand up, stand up. And sit down, sit down, sit down. Very good, very good. Please stand up, stand up, stand up. And, I didn't say sit down, did I? I didn't. And please sit down, sit down, sit down. Very good. And stand up, stand up, stand up. Very good, very good. Okay, can you show me how to walk? Do you know how to walk? You walk like this. Ready? You chest out, and we go, and we walk left, right, left. We're going to walk around the room. That's my bottom. Okay, we walk around the room. Ready? Here we go. 1, 2, 3, go. And let's walk, 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 and stop. And sit down. Very good. And stand up, stand up, stand up. Very good. Can you show me how to swim? Do you know how to swim? How do you swim? You swim like this. Yeah. You swim like this. Yeah. So let's swim around the room. Are you ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Let's swim, 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 and swim quickly, swim quickly, swim, 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 swim quickly, swim quickly, and stop. And sit down. Very good. And stand up. Very good, very good. Now, can you show me how to fly? How do you fly? How do you fly? Like this. You can fly. Yeah, fly. So are we ready? Okay, let's ready, steady, go. Let's fly, 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 fly.
Okay, sorry. Guys, it's like freezing on me. I'm gonna enable this and go back to the PowerPoint. So I really, did you guys notice any vocabulary words that he used? Like I heard steady. So that was one of the vocabulary words. He is actually a kindergarten teacher, and all of his students are English language learners. So I chose this video because I really loved how he's very like hands-on, like let's do it. And sometimes when kids didn't understand, you could see them like all bundled, like, what does he want us to do next? And as soon as he's like, around, he's like going around, and then the students start following one after the other, you know. So it's kind of giving them a visual. He's very hands-on. He makes noises like the, you know, go down. I really enjoyed this video. So now we're going to move on to academic language. And academic language in your book starts in page, I want to say 23, but actually, yeah, it's like 23 and 24. So language used and valued for a communicative purpose in school, higher education, and many professional settings. So like what we've talked before, academic language helps prepare students for like college or the 21st century world. And then we also have focus on the characteristics of academic language that are considered common across all content areas. So that's kind of what the book went over when it came to academic language. It also broke it down the same way that it did for oral language, with semantics, morphological skills, pragmatics, phonological skills. But I didn't make slides for that because the definitions were the same. So yeah, and I put a picture of all, you know, like we have doctors, and I think she's a lawyer, and she's probably a nurse, you know, because those are the jobs, well, any job, all of these jobs will need students to learn academic language. I have this video, it kind of gives you more information about academic language, so we'll watch it. Let's see, now I have to go back, I have to pause. Okay, so I have to go to main screen, enable screen, whoa, millions of me, right? And then I'm gonna put this on the side. Okay, ready?
When we talk about a person acquiring a new language and their proficiency in that language, we need to be very clear what type of language we're talking about: social language or academic language. Social language is primarily conversational and casual. This is the language that is used when playing in the schoolyard or talking with friends at the lockers. English language learners can become proficient in social language in a relatively short period of time, often within 1 to 2 years. The problem is when we mistake a student's proficiency in social language for proficiency in academic language. Academic language is much more complex than social language. It includes vocabulary, understanding and participating in academic discussions, as well as reading and writing for academic purposes. It means students are only going to encounter academic language when they're engaged in using it in the classroom. As a result, it can take 5 to 7 years for ELLs to develop their academic language, even longer if that student has limited or interrupted formal education. While it is true that a student will develop their social language more quickly than their academic language, it does not mean that we delay using academic language until after social language has been acquired. Students need to develop both their conversational and their academic language concurrently. To do this effectively, there are some things we need to understand about academic language. Jim Cummins, a researcher and a linguist, explains that language varies in terms of its level of cognitive demand. For example, a casual conversation between friends does not involve language that is cognitively demanding or very taxing for the speakers. However, listening to a classroom lecture would be much more cognitively demanding. A second consideration is how contextualized the language is. That is, what information besides the actual language itself does a person have available to make sense of the communication? For example, during a face-to-face conversation, there are a range of context clues that help to underscore what is being communicated. Body language, facial expressions, hand gestures, pointing to physical objects, all these provide additional context to help make sense of what is being said. Now, let's make that into a phone conversation instead. Suddenly, all of that additional context has been eliminated. No facial expressions, no hand gestures, nothing to help navigate what is being said. The language used during a phone conversation is context reduced, meaning that there are fewer context clues available. This increases the need to rely on the language itself to understand what is being communicated. Let's look at this diagram. Here, the vertical axis represents the range of cognitive demand required for communication. Less demanding experiences, such as casual conversations, would be at the top of the axis. More demanding experiences, such as those associated with school, would be toward the bottom. Now let's consider the horizontal axis. It represents the range of context in which the communication is embedded. Communication that is more context embedded, where more opportunities are available to make sense beyond the language itself, is on the left. This is where the face-to-face conversation would be. Communication with less context, that is context reduced, such as that telephone conversation, would be on the right side because there is less context available to make meaning. Someone engaged in communication at that level would need to rely exclusively on the language itself to understand. Like social language, academic language, with a higher cognitive demand, can also be context embedded or context reduced. That means as educators, we must do two things. First, we must make sure that students are consistently engaged in cognitively demanding academic language. That is the only way our students will have a chance to develop their academic language proficiency. Second, we must make that academic language more context embedded so that students have many different opportunities to grab onto the language and make sense of it. In future presentations, we will look at ways that we can support our students by doing just that. For now, here are some key takeaway points. Language acquisition involves two types of language: social language and academic language. Social language is casual and develops fairly quickly, 1 to 2 years. Academic language is more involved and takes longer to acquire, 5 to 7 years. We need to be careful not to confuse proficiency in social language with proficiency in academic language. We also need to focus on social and academic language concurrently. Social language places less of a cognitive demand on students than academic language does. All language, social or academic, is more accessible when it is context embedded, providing additional cues to help make meaning.
Okay guys, so that video was really good. I like the way it explained, hold on, let me go back. So I like the way it explains social language and academic language, which is what this chapter is. You have oral language and academic language. And they also brought in the context embedded chart that we went over with Yusuf. That was like really important. Body language, facial expressions, all that was good information. So I hope you guys got good information out of this video. How many times can I say information, right? Okay. So connections between academic language and reading comprehension. So we need academic language to build reading comprehension skills. So my example, when I'm reading college articles, how do I know what the article is talking about if the vocabulary on its own is pretty challenging and difficult? and I have to stop and search for it and then try and connect it with the rest of the reading to like try and understand what the article or book is trying to say. The higher the grade, the more complicated texts are to comprehend. Yes, college. Students must be able to do both in order to be considered literate based off of the standards. Now the standards are very I'm gonna say rigorous when it comes to academic language. There's not one standard that does not have academic language on it. Like you could literally, one of them has like 3 or 4 of them. And then I put a little peanut butter and jelly picture because, you know, academic language and reading comprehension, you have to have both, especially in the academic career that the kids are going through now is with the standards. You have to have vocabulary, you have to have reading comprehension, you have to have that academic language. You know, you don't have peanut butter and jelly, you're not literate, you're not considered literate without your peanut butter, without your academic language, without your jelly, reading comprehension. You can't make a peanut butter sandwich without either or. You can make a peanut butter and jelly. You can make a peanut butter sandwich, but it's not going to be a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I mean, come on guys, there's a song, peanut butter jelly time, peanut butter. You get the point. So for this one, you're off to great places. Today is your day. Your mountain is waiting, so get on your way. So I really like this picture to wrap up my PowerPoint because us as teachers, we have to learn everything that our English language learners need. Because if you think about it, not just students that are learning English, like the language itself, are struggling. Students that are monolingual are also struggling. And so we have to learn ways to help them get over their mountains. We have to know strategies. We have to know the process like from the core. Like, okay, it starts with oral language and then it goes here. So what is an oral language, you know? Like Angela says, we have to be doctors, and in this case we have to be surgeons. We have to know from the skin to the muscles to the bones to the cells, however it goes, in order to help students, you know, go over their mountains. So I have this video. Angela, if you don't want to count it as my time, it's fine, but I wanted you guys to see it, just, you know, to make you guys laugh and kind of wrap up everything. So hope you guys enjoy it. It was pretty hilarious for me, but now I gotta do this. Okay, so I'm gonna show you guys the video. Now in this video, I know I said that it was like for us to kind of wrap up my presentation, but also consider if these were your real students, you would have these accents, you would have them mistaking sounds, or you'll see. It's a cool video. So now I go to the main screen, enable, whoa, there you go again. Can you see me right here? Just kidding. Okay. Make it big. So this is my sister's laptop, so I'm trying to figure it out. But anyway.
Are, you are. He, she, or it is. He, she, or it is. We are. We are. You are. You are. They are. They are. All right. I shall now go round the class and ask you each to give me a sentence using the verb to be. Taro, I am.
Ah, so. I am very happy to be learning English.
Very good. Good. Giovanni, he is.
He is a fool.
Good, but not Isidore. He is a fool.
Yes, he is a fool.
Max, she is.
She is beautiful. She is wonderful. She is...
Yes, thank you, Max. Juan, it is.
Por favor.
It is.
Por favor.
It is raining.
Lloviendo. It is raining. No, no llueve. It is raining. No llueve.
We'll skip you for the moment.
Por favor.
Doesn't matter. Sit down. Suli, it is.
It is duty of every citizen to overthrow imperial woman. So said Chairman Mao.
Yes, well, that's his opinion. Good. Danielle, we are.
We are lucky to have such great...
Quiet, please. Very true. I mean, thank you. Ali, you are. You are.
You are waiting for me to speak an answer.
Well done. And
Unfortunately, I am not understanding the question.
I want you to give me a sentence using you are.
I am.
No, not I am. You are. For example, you are from Pakistan.
I am from Pakistan.
Good. Yes, but now use you are.
But I cannot say you are from Pakistan because you are not, are you?
Repeat after me. You are English.
No, I am from Pakistan.
What am I?
You are confusing me.
You are stupid book.
Don't you call me a book? Book? I will tell you. Sit down.
Okay. Back to my... So yeah, guys, that was chapter 2. Breaking down oral language. How is oral language helpful for students? And what I kind of took from the video, not this one, but the last one we had, that just because a student is proficient in oral language doesn't mean that they are in the academic language. So we have to, kind of put both. So that's especially like us as teachers, when we use academic language, that when we socialize to them, that's doing both, social language and academic language or oral language. And then it also talks about academic language and the role that it comes when we're talking about reading comprehension. So this chapter, we did learn a few of the things in other classes, so I was trying to make it as interesting as I could for you guys. But I was looking at the next chapters, and those will be more of like how to do these things that English language learners need. So that'll be kind of interesting, and I hope you enjoyed my presentation. Bye!